This young lioness was a casualty of conflict. Not long ago, over a dispute for prey ownership, two large lion prides clashed in territory that wasn't theirs. Over 30 lions joined the chaotic battle over the defeated son. It was a deep and painful lesson. But in this wild land, death is far from rare. Clashes between predators are bound to happen again. However, this documentary might change the way you see the emotions of these fierce beasts. In the woodland clearing of Tanzania's national park, a curious phenomenon occurs. Lions and monkeys have become good neighbors. Normally, monkeys are among the lion's prey. Yet here, they manage to coexist peacefully after living together for so long. This is now the home of the Glade Pride. They're a small group made up of 2 adult lionesses and several cubs. The cubs play and frolic carefree every day, never having to worry about monkey attacks. One day, a herd of hartebeests wandered into lion territory. The pride's leader had noticed them early on. He knew it was time to hunt, but this herd was extremely alert. At the first alarm call from nearby animals, they would bolt, especially at sounds from monkeys or birds, who typically give warning calls when predators appear. But this place was a different story. The monkeys didn't sound any alarm. Instead, they quietly followed behind the lions. The hartebeests stayed alert, but noticed nothing unusual. Then, the monkeys stepped forward, acting calm and natural. Seeing that, the hartebeests let down their guard. Little did they know, it was all part of the monkeys' setup. Meanwhile, the hunters crept closer. The monkeys turned a blind eye and even seemed to be waiting for something. With such a perfect plan, failure is almost impossible. The lion's dinner is finally secured. And of course, the credit. At least 60% of it goes to Fei Fei's superb acting. However, what was Fei Fei's intention behind all this? Fei Fei knows very well. A well-fed lion is a safe lion. As long as the lions aren't worrying about food, they can continue to coexist peacefully. Though the Glade Pride isn't large in numbers, they live a peaceful and cozy life. But peaceful times are always short-lived. On the edge of their territory lies a river bend, an open area with sparse vegetation. Around 18 kilometers east of that area, a massive herd of buffalo has appeared. They come from an arid plateau region, in search of water, and they're heading straight for lion territory. Even worse, trailing right behind them is an outsider pride of lions. It's the Injop Pride, led by a battle-hardened lioness. Though not many adults, they're all fierce and brave. For some unknown reason, this pride hunts only buffalo, nothing else, and they have no fixed territory. Their motto, wherever the buffalo roam, that's where their domain lies, even if it means trespassing on other pride's lands. The Injop Pride couldn't care less. Buffalo are large in size, with short tempers. Most lion prides avoid them at all costs, but the Injop Pride has developed specialized buffalo hunting skills. They understand buffalo behavior. The old, weak, sick, and young are kept in the middle of the herd for protection, and these just happen to be the lion's prime targets. At this moment, the Injop Pride has locked in on its prey, a young buffalo calf. They stir up chaos, forcing the vulnerable to break away from the herd. Then, using the swirling dust, they strike with deadly precision. The buffalo herd won't mourn the loss of one member, and came to a halt. Braving the scorching sun, they pressed on toward the water source. The Glade Pride remained hot on their heels. After days of traveling, the Glade lions were already starving, but this time, they had their eyes on a strong adult buffalo. The perfect coordination among members made this hunt a guaranteed success. It was truly brutal. In the eyes of the Glade lions, these buffaloes were already their exclusive prey, with no room for other predators to intrude. The Infamily Pride, with cubs in tow, had been tracking the buffalo herd closely, unaware they were about to cross into the Glade Pride's territory, about 2 kilometers east of the forest clearing. There stands an ancient baobab grove. This is home to the W.a.r. Pride. The W.a.r. Pride consists of up to 30 members, composed of adult lionesses and their offspring. Their numbers far exceed a typical pride, a formidable force. And fortunately, the pride lacks a resident male lion. The first wave of buffalo had already reached the baobab forest. However, this herd was not the one followed by the Infamily Pride. These buffaloes had come from the north as part of the annual migration. In previous years, the W.a.r. Pride would hunt the buffalo during this time, but this year, due to worsening drought, the buffalo herd didn't plan to linger in the W.a.r. Pride's territory. Instead, they headed directly to the forest clearing in search of water. If the W.a.r. Pride chose to follow the herd, they would inevitably enter Glade Pride territory, a move that could put them in serious danger. However, their leader, Oba couldn't resist the temptation of an easy feast and decided to lead the Pride away from their home. Little did he know that this wrong decision would soon cost the Pride dearly. Meanwhile, inside Glade Pride territory, things were starting to get lively. The annual migration of buffalo had arrived once again. The Glade Pride is no stranger to this place, but this time, something unusual is happening. The Glade lions spot two buffalo herds approaching the river bend from opposite directions. One herd came through the baobab forest, the other was being followed by the Injop Pride. This makes the Glade lions anxious. Not because there are too many buffaloes, but because they worry about invading lions, posing a threat to their cubs. Although the Glade Pride is weaker, their leader makes a smart and strategic decision, facing the aggressive intruders. The leader leads the cubs away without hesitation. They'll return home only after things calm down. Meanwhile, the two buffalo herds finally reach the clearing by the river bend. A massive dark crowd, like an army pressing in. After days of exhaustion, they greedily gulp down the water. At the same time, the Obashi Pride also arrives, setting foot in unfamiliar territory. They skip rest and recovery, choosing instead to launch a hunt right away. Undeniably, this is another poor decision. They start selecting targets to hunt and split up to act. They attack in for waves. However, the buffalo seem to sense the danger. Panic suddenly spreads, and the Obashi Pride is forced into action. The scene descends into chaos. The Obashi Pride can no longer lock onto a specific target. Each lion ends up fighting on their own. Team coordination completely breaks down. Worse yet, the buffalo suddenly counterattack, catching the Obashi lions completely off guard. The situation is spiraling out of control. In fact, the Obashi Pride made another mistake. That is, they shouldn't have attacked while the buffalo were drinking. These buffalo came all this way just for water, and now you won't even let them drink. You're basically pushing them to the edge. Of course, the buffalo united and fought back. Even now, the Obashi leader is still trying to push forward, but in the end, it was all in vain. The Glade Pride had exhausted a huge amount of energy, but ended up empty-handed. However, a failed hunt wasn't the worst part, because the brutal Glade lions had just arrived here. They definitely wouldn't like what they were seeing. Their prey being hunted by a large and familiar pride. This was nothing short of a provocation. Compared to the Glade Pride, the Glade lions had fewer members, but each of them was a fierce and experienced fighter. They obviously couldn't tolerate this provocation. The leader of the Glade Pride also noticed the Glade lions. Watching them approach slowly, he had a bad feeling in his gut. Maybe considering the difference in numbers, he still didn't choose to back down. Tension rose on both sides. A subadult male lion, the vanguard of the Glade lions, was confronted by three members of the Glade Pride. The vanguard couldn't hold up. He ran back for reinforcements. Both Pride leaders actually belonged to the same bloodline. The leader of the Glade lions charged forward, fiercely ready to fight. Both sides were at a standoff, neither willing to retreat. The herd of buffalo nearby sensed trouble. They stopped drinking water and ran for their lives. A team battle was about to erupt. The scene was total chaos. This kind of large-scale lion brawl is rarely seen. The outcome was unexpected. The more numerous Glade Pride actually lost the fight. They fled in panic. Worse still, a young member of the Glade Pride was injured in the fight. Now, he was surrounded by the Glade lions. Facing the wounded lion, the Glade lions clearly had the power to kill him quickly, but they chose not to. Instead, they tore at him and tortured him, because the leader of the Glade lions had other plans. The screams of his companion made the Oba Pride halt in their tracks. Seeing their companion in agony, the Oba Pride stood frozen on the spot, at a complete loss. No one knows what was going through Oba's mind at that moment, but it must have been unbearable. Because in a pride, female lions are often closely related by blood. Their companion was being tortured before their eyes, yet they were powerless to help. The in-family pride never delivered a fatal blow. The companion's painful cries just went on and on. The Pride members no longer had the strength to fight, but abandoning their companion was unthinkable. Now, there was only one way to save her: for leader Oba to surrender to the enemy. In the end, Oba made his choice. His companions followed closely behind. Oba knew that by going over, he might be killed, but he still went without hesitation. It was at that moment I realized, these fierce beasts possess emotions no less than humans. Oba crawled low to the ground, humbly submitting to the Pride leader. And this was exactly the Pride's goal. They kept torturing the injured Lioness to force Oba to surrender. The Pride got what they wanted and left. All the Lionesses gathered around their companion. As the saying goes, blood is thicker than water. They were either sisters or mothers and daughters. Their hearts must have been breaking, yet there was nothing they could do. The scorching sun blazed above. These Lionesses, battered by defeat, retreated to the water's edge to wait. They hoped the wounded young Lioness would be able to stand again. The leader risked his life to bow to his enemies, but would all he did be in vain? The scorching sun baked the earth without mercy, slowly draining the Lioness's energy, one bit at a time. Eventually, thinking of the Pride's survival, leader Oba had no choice but to lead them back to their territory. Perhaps he regretted it all, that his repeated mistakes brought such a devastating cost to the Pride. A long time had passed since that incident, yet one of the Glade Lionesses still stayed nearby. It was the injured cub's mother, watching from afar, helpless as she saw her wounded child. As a mother, how heartbreaking must that have been? All she could do was stay by its side for as long as possible. But in the end, she had to endure the pain and give up on her cub. The cub was too gravely injured. Its spine was broken. There was no chance of survival. When the vultures arrived, it was as if they had come to confirm its death. If the nearby documentary team had intervened, perhaps the cub might have had a slim chance. But their choice not to interfere was also understandable. In the end, the cub collapsed under the scorching sun, a victim of the conflict between lion prides. By evening, the Glade Pride returned home, but the tragedy had already unfolded. There was no turning back. Peace returned to the forest clearing, but this land was never destined to stay quiet for long. Because a powerful coalition of nomadic males was about to follow the trail of the buffalo into this territory, bringing with them a new crisis.